drones are unmanned aircraft systems. Basically, they're little pieces of technology, little aircraft that fly around, and they're not manned, they're actually controlled from the ground. So what's interesting about that is that actually touches a bunch of different practices. Touches the real estate practice, aviation, obviously, regulatory issues, privacy, technology, construction, governmental affairs. So what we've decided to do is get a group of people together to all talk about what those issues are and figure out how to service those other practice areas by becoming knowledgeable in how to address the issues properly.
Because of the new technology, it's perceived that there's a need for legal representation in all of these areas, whether it's government affairs or real estate or technology, and it's all the areas that we cover at the firm. Obviously, we have, without question, the largest aviation practice in the Southeast and one of the largest aviation practices in the country. So this is a great complement to the practice that we have now in aviation, but then broadening it to include a lot of the other issues that drones are going to require, and operators of drones, manufacturers of drones, designers, and our aviation practice is very complementary to that.
So we've already gotten some calls from various attorneys in the firm saying, oh, my client has an issue, a drone's spying in its window, can they shoot it down? The answer is no. So that's kind of how it started, just like little issues here and there with like privacy. So those are just a few issues, but also we're starting to get some more questions from different attorneys in the firm, like, oh, my client wants to figure out how to incorporate drones into their business to increase efficiency, make it safer. How do they do that? What are some of the regulations out there? What are some of the other issues out there? So there is a need to know how to consult our clients on those issues.
And you have to understand where they're being used. They're being used in law enforcement, interdiction, and here in Atlanta with the large film industry, they're being used in film and television production. And we actually have one of the largest operators of this type of equipment, Phoenix Air Services. And they are a huge operator of drones in the film industry. So our role is to guide these companies and these operators, not just in the aviation space, but the regulatory space, technology, how you use them, and developing technology for future use of these drones in various industries.
A new law was passed which basically directs the FAA to write all of these new regulations on how drones can be operated. And basically what's going to happen is the uses for drones are going to increase exponentially, which is really exciting for these times. So what we're doing is kind of getting on the forefront of what these regulations are, how to manage them, how to consult our clients on them. But just as an example, some of the trends that you will see, drones will be used for long-range surveillance, the transportation of packages and maybe people, and then just the different ways they can record data.
But to add to that too, we have a large timber practice. There was a company here in Atlanta that was using drones to map timberland. Instead of sending individuals down into forest land, they were using drones to measure density and age. Drones are used for building inspections. So instead of sending humans up 35, 40, 50 stories in the air or to inspect chimneys or power lines, people are using drones instead of helicopters. They're more cost efficient and they're safer. So there is going to be a huge explosion as far as use of these devices in all walks of life. But what sets us apart is, first of all, I think it starts with our aviation practice. Again, it's one of the largest in the country. Personally, I was involved with the Georgia Department of Economic Development as Georgia was looking to become one of the leading test sites for drones in the future, and implementing regulations that guided the industry but didn't hamstring the industry from growing in the state of Georgia. But then in addition to that, as the equipment has grown in use, we've seen the ability to cover these issues outside of just the aviation practice to include, as Erin said, all the other practices that we broadly cover. Real estate, construction, particularly technology. I keep harping on technology, but that really is going to be what drives these devices, and of course regulatory.
Yeah, and something that I think also sets us apart is Don and I have been talking with other subject matter experts in the firm, like Brett Lockwood on privacy issues, Marcy Ernst on litigation issues, Perry McGuire on lobbying efforts. So we really have been trying to plan ahead of what kind of experts we're going to need to engage in the future. So we've been communicating really well.